Om Sahana Vavatu Sahana Bhunaktu Sahaviryam Karavavahai Tejasvinavadi Tamastu Mavid Vishavahai. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. And we'll share the screen. Here we are, January 28th in Asia. Where did January go? Huh? It's almost gone already. And we're first topic. Drawing again on cultivating 9 key spiritual qualities in children. These 9 concepts also apply to teachers and their students, as well as to supervisors and their staff. And today we're looking at the second spiritual quality to develop, which is perceptive self-correction. So you remember they all start with a P. Makes it easier to remember. Perceptive self-correction is evident when we are able to quickly learn the lesson from each experience and resolve not to repeat our mistakes. How do parents develop this quality in children? What are your thoughts on how this is accomplished? How do children learn to quickly learn from their mistakes? By teaching them that making mistakes is not bad. Everyone makes mistakes. It is natural and simply shows we do not understand something. So we're not supposed to understand everything. So making mistakes is quite natural. I have met many individuals who are moving forward positive with their plans, but then they made a significant mistake and basically fell apart. Lost their positive momentum because of self-doubt. This can happen because they were raised with the belief that they should never make a mistake, that they always need to be perfect. I like to jokingly say, if everyone was perfect, he or she would never have been born in the first place. Everyone on earth shares the qualities of not being perfect and therefore makes mistakes on occasion. However, they also share the quality that the inside, the soul, is already perfect. The outside is imperfect and the inside is perfect and divine. What should parents do when their children make mistakes? What are your thoughts on what to do? It is important for the parent to determine what understanding the child lacks and teach it to him without blame. And of course, it's pointing out what shouldn't be done is simply to blame the child. That's missing an opportunity to help the child learn. When parents discipline through natural and logical consequences, children are encouraged to learn to reflect on the possible effects of their behavior before acting. That's what we want. Such wisdom can be nurtured through encouraging self-reflection by asking the child to think about what he did and how he could avoid making that mistake again. Perceptive self-correction enables young ones to quickly learn from their inevitable mistakes, refine their still developing behavior accordingly, and thereby make more rapid progress on the spiritual path. I don't think this text makes the point, but sometimes I state that in the sense that Someone with perceptive self-correction only makes a mistake once. They make a mistake, figure out how to not make the mistake again, and they move on. That's what we're striving for. Gurudeva observed, children are entrusted to their parents to be loved, guided, and protected, for they are the future of the future. However, children can be a challenge to raise up into good citizenship. There are many positive ways to guide them, such as hugging, kindness, time spent explaining, giving wise direction, setting the example of what you want them to become. And the adult version, Up Desk, Mistakes Are Part of the Spiritual Path. Subtitle, Blunders Are in Truth Opportunities to Improve Our Behavior and Thereby Make Spiritual Progress. 2003, 21 years ago. Message is still valid. This publisher's desk was written-based counseling many individuals who over the years made a serious mistake and are feeling depressed about it. It provides a 4-step process for responding to a mistake that turns it into a positive event. Let's begin this part with a quote from Swami Vivekananda. The Vedanta recognizes no sin, it only recognizes error. And the greatest error, says the Vedanta, is to say that you are weak, that you are a sinner or a miserable creature, and that you have no power and you cannot do this and that. What Swami Vivekananda is pointing out is that when we do something wrong, it is better to think of it as an error or mistake than to think of it as a sin. This is because a mistake is clearly something we can correct. In other words, we have the ability to learn from our mistakes and thereby avoid making them again. Important insights into the soul's maturing process can be gained by looking at the 3 Shaktis of God Shiva, which are symbolized by his trident or Trishula. Each a Shakti. The power of desire, Kriya Shakti, the power of action, and Jnana Shakti, the power of wisdom, which also happen to be the 3 powers of the soul. We first have a desire, and when the desire becomes strong enough, we act. In young souls, the action may be ill-conceived, even against Dharma. For example, a man wants a computer, so he steals one. Money is needed, so he robs a bank. The soul is often caught up in repeating a cycle of similar experiences, moving back and forth from desire to action, till the needed lesson is learned. So that's a good point. Let me comment on that before this slide. In other words, it can take a while. We get caught up in a cycle. We don't quite understand it. We're acting from desire. We have a desire and we're acting. Then we have that desire again and we're acting. And it's not quite working out right, but we don't understand the overall situation. So we repeat it many, many times, even many years worth. And finally we have the insight, the Jnana Shakti. We say, oh, I see. I'm approaching this all the wrong way. And we move on to a new approach. So that's what that was talking about. It can take time for that type of cycle to work out, which is different than a simple mistake, like starting a fire. In the case of the adharmic action of stealing, eventually he will learn the lesson that this is not the best way to acquire possessions. This may come from the difficult experience of being caught, or by seeing the suffering our actions cause in others. Such learning is the Jnana Shakti, soul wisdom coming forth and causing one's behavior to improve. The process is the same for dharmic action. Say we are helping out as a volunteer at the temple, teaching children's classes once a month. We like the feeling of helping others in a meaningful way, and so decide to help out every week and even participate in regular meetings to plan the classes. We are doing a selfless action, and the reaction it has on us is to feel more inner joy. The jnana is to resolve to do even more service and thus feel more joyful. We have improved our behavior. A few years ago, a segment on television described an innovative prison in California. Oh, this was probably 25 years ago. As we all know, the usual approach is to regard jail simply as a time of punishment by confinement for a number of years. Under this approach, many of the prisoners released repeat the same crimes and return to jail again and again. Their behavior shows no improvement. In fact, they may learn the criminal's craft while serving their sentence. In this innovative prison program, the warden had initiated a regimen that included counseling, yoga, and other therapeutic activities to improve the behavior of prisoners so they would not repeat their crimes and return to jail. The program is showing an excellent success rate. Okay, so I already did this one. For all of mankind, no matter where one is on the path, spiritual advancement comes from improving one's behavior. Said another way, it comes from learning from our mistakes. Unfortunately, this process is often inhibited by the idea that somehow we are not supposed to make mistakes. Mistakes are bad. Far too many children grow up being scolded for their mistakes by parents. Teachers ridicule students when they make mistakes. Supervisors yell at workers when they make a mistake. No wonder many adults feel terrible when they make a mistake. To spiritually benefit from our mistakes, we need a new attitude toward them. Gurudeva gives us a new and encouraging way of looking at our errors. He described mistakes as wonderful opportunities to learn. Compared learning from life's experiences to progressing through the classes at a university, he proclaimed. Life is a series of experiences, one after another. Each experience can be looked at as a classroom in the big university of life if we only approach it that way. Who is going to these classrooms? Who is the member of this university of life? It's not your instinctive mind, it's not your intellectual mind. It's the body of your soul, your superconscious self, that wonderful body of light. It's maturing under the stress and strain. Parents and caretakers can teach children that making mistakes is not bad. Everyone makes mistakes. It is natural and simply shows we do not understand something about the matter at hand, or we have been inattentive. Perhaps our worst mistake is to not take the opportunity to learn from our last mistake. It is important for parents to determine what understanding the child lacks and teach it to him without blame or shame. When parents discipline through natural and logical consequences, children are encouraged to learn to reflect on the possible effects of their behavior before acting. So same paragraph we read before. Such wisdom can be nurtured through encouraging self-reflection, asking the child to think about what he did and how he could avoid making that mistake again. Moving on, there are 4 progressive reactions that naturally ensue when one makes a mistake. What are the 4 progressive reactions? See who remembers. Give you a minute on this one. Common first reaction to having made a mistake is to become upset, to become fretful or angry about it, or if it is a serious mistake, to become deeply burdened and even depressed. This is a normal first reaction, but if it is our only reaction, it is not enough for those seeking to advance themselves spiritually. To progress, we need to cope with the emotional reaction to the action and move on to the learning stage. What approach is helpful in avoiding getting stuck in this first reaction of negative emotion? So that's the question to you. Answer, accept that you will make mistakes. You can't avoid it. Holding the perspectives that I need to strive to learn from the mistake. So you just accept. You're convinced you were going to make mistakes now and then. So that helps you move out of it quickly. That's a good second reaction to a mistake, is to think clearly about what happened, why it occurred, and find a way to not repeat the mistake in the future. So that is really important. That's the learning part. We need to learn, so we only make the mistake once. Perhaps we were not being careful enough, and simply resolving to be more circumspect next time will prevent the problem from recurring. Perhaps we lack some important knowledge, and now we have that knowledge, which we can simply resolve to use next time. Perhaps we created unintended consequences that cause significant problems to ourselves or others. Now that we are aware of the consequences, we certainly won't repeat the action. So those are common reasons a mistake happens. We weren't careful enough. We lacked knowledge. We created unintended consequences that we did not foresee. A few years ago, a group of teenagers in Australia started a small forest fire in which several innocent people were seriously burned. They were caught, and as part of their discipline, the judge directed them to visit the victims in the hospital to see the consequences of their actions. This impressed them so deeply that they were overcome with regret and pledged to never vandalize again. So they had no intention of hurting somebody, just having fun. Those who are striving to live a spiritual life are self-reflective and learn quickly from their blunders. In fact, one way to tell a young soul from an old soul is to observe how quickly he cognizes his error and learns not to repeat the same mistake. Quite often I get an email from someone who made a mistake in which he or she laments, "Oh, I should not have done this." Of course, belaboring one's remorse is just getting stuck at the first level of reaction. I encourage such persons to move on to the second level by not repeating, "I should not have done this," but affirming, "I won't do it again." That is the response we are striving for, not to simply feel sorry that we made a mistake, but to commit to not making it again, or at least trying not to make it again. Taking that step is exercising the power of self-reflection, which is how we progress on the spiritual path, because the spiritual path is a series of experiences offering many opportunities to falter. We can study our errors and learn to not repeat them, then we turn them into new growth and progress. If we constantly make the same mistakes over and over and over again, without improvement, we remain in a rut and delay our progress. What approach is helpful in achieving learning from the mistake? Through self-reflection, identify which of these three common reasons caused the mistake. Of course, there are more reasons, but these are three of the most common reasons, which we already mentioned. Not being careful enough, lack of knowledge, unintended consequences. So if you can identify which one was the cause, then you're a good distance along toward figuring out how to not have it happen again. Third remedy may be needed if our misstep involved other people. Perhaps we have hurt someone's feelings or created a strain between us. A direct apology can fix this if we know the other person well. If we are not close enough to the individual to be able to apologize, a generous act can often adjust the flow of feelings back into our harmonious condition. For example, hold a small dinner party and include him among the invited guests. A fourth remedy may be needed in cases of major misdeeds. For example, if we did something that was dishonest, even if we resolve to not repeat the misdeed and apologize to those involved, we may still feel guilty about the transgression. By performing some form of penance, prayaschitta, we can rid ourselves of the burden of feeling bad about what we have done. In Hinduism, we're not supposed to feel guilty, different from some religions. If we're feeling guilty, it means we need to do some prayaschitta. We need to apologize. We need to fix the situation. And after we do so, we should not feel guilty anymore. Just move on. We made a mistake. And we compensated for it. How do you know you need to do penance? Because you have done the first 3 steps and you still feel burdened. Typical forms of penance are fasting, performing 108 prostrations before the deity, doing walking prostrations up a sacred path or around a temple. These, of course, are too severe for younger children, but they can do simpler penances such as skipping dessert 1 meal or renouncing a favorite TV program 1 night. To get the most benefit out of penance, we suggest, and this applies to any type of penance, such as those done at Taipusam, that you have in mind specific misdeeds you regret having done, as well as promise the deity you will try your best not to repeat that misdeed again. So that gives added value to the penance. Our second topic, see what we have here. Questions to satsang@hindu.org. In tyemuif, do we focus forward towards inner forehead, backwards into center of cranium, or upwards to crown? So we need to know what tyemuif means. Shum word. Looking within with eyes slightly open. Looking out into the exterior world through the physical eyes, which are slightly open. And at the same time looking back into the head as if one had pupils on the back of the eyeballs. So the idea is you're looking straight back. You're looking straight forward and you're looking straight back at the same time. That's tyemuif. You're not looking up, down, slightly up, straight back. So it's a flat plane. And since we're on tyemuif, let's see what the rest of it is about here. Continuing with the definition, tyemuif may be practiced many times during the day. This is the practice and the state of being of protecting the inner life by remaining 2/3 within inner consciousness and 1/3 in external consciousness, communication with the third dimension or conscious mind world. Tyemuif brings a Shumif perspective as well as Kamsat Chemni. While in tyemuif, looking within, the meditator will see many things. From Bali Kana, a clear whitish field of soft light, to pleasing and not so pleasing pictures. People are often seen in a state of tyemuif while thinking deeply. Working out a problem or intuiting an idea or plan. When one becomes sleepy in meditation, it is wise to go into tyemuif by opening the eyes slightly. Helps you get out of your sleepy mood. Having the eyes slightly open. Opening the eyes slightly. And our third and last topic, quote from Yogaswami's words of our master. There is one thing God cannot do. And that's the question to you. What do you think that is? Gurudeva mentions it in the trilogy, I believe. He cannot separate himself from the soul. Okay? How do you interpret the significance of that statement? What was Yogaswami trying to impress on the mind of those hearing that statement? And there's no one correct answer to this one. Certainly one interpretation is that God's presence within the soul is always the case, from the soul's very beginning to the soul's final merger with Shiva. God is always within the soul, from its first moment to its last moment before Vishvagrasa, merging with Shiva. Oh, thank you very much.